Let's make corn cob jelly. The first thing I've done is boil my corn cobs, and I have about 24 here that I covered with water and boiled for about 30 minutes. And I was out of Sure-Gel, so I decided to use Pomona's pectin. And if you've never used Pomona's pectin before, there's definitely a learning curve, and I don't always get it right. Because I was not using a reduced sugar recipe, I didn't think that I would need the calcium water, which is what you see in the jar behind my bowl there, but I did need it. With Pomona's pectin, you mix the pectin directly into the sugar. Because I had 6 cups of corn cob water, I am using 6 cups of sugar and 6 teaspoons of pectin. I strain the corn cob water through cheesecloth just to remove all the little bits of corn. Normally when using Pomona's pectin, you would have your calcium water already in the pan with your liquid coming to a boil. Then you would add your sugar and the pectin and stir continuously to dissolve the pectin into the liquid completely and your sugar. This will come back to a full rolling boil. I added a pat of butter to help reduce the foaming that happens when you are stirring your jelly. And then I allowed this to come up to a rolling boil that cannot be stirred down and let it boil for a minute before turning the heat off. I decided to add a few drops of yellow food coloring to this jelly to give it that bright yellow color and not a really pale yellow. Before I fill my jars, I skimmed the foam off of the top of the jelly. It doesn't affect the taste, it's just not very attractive in the jar. And my jars are hot because I'm going to process this for only 5 minutes. I did sterilize them in my water bath canner, and I'm going to fill them to a 1/4 inch headspace. And you really want to be sure with things like jelly that are very sticky that you wipe the rims down. You can use a paper towel or a washcloth with hot water on it or white vinegar just to make sure that there's nothing between the rim of your jar and your lid that would prevent a good seal. Once I have these in the canner, I'm going to put the lid on my canner and allow the water to come to a rolling boil, and then I will process them for 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, I'll turn the heat off and remove the lid and wait another 5 minutes before I remove the jars to cool. And these came out of the canner looking beautiful. They're a wonderful color. All of the jars sealed, but the jelly did not set. And I think that may be because I did not use the calcium water that Pomona's pectin calls for. And there are lots of things that you can use unset jelly for, but because I've never made corn cob jelly before, I really wanted to have jelly and not a runny liquid. So I decided to fix these, and you can fix unset jelly. I dumped all of this jelly out into a bowl to measure how much I was starting with. So for every single recipe of jelly, I'm going to mix up a 1/4 cup of water, a 1/4 cup of sugar, 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, and 4 teaspoons of Sure-Gel. Because when you use Sure-Gel, you should not double your recipe. I did these in separate batches because I had enough of the unset jelly for 2 separate recipes for Sure-Gel jelly. And then you just start over. You add your unset jelly to the mixture that you create with the pectin. Now, once I've added my unset jelly back into the pot, I have to stir constantly to mix that pectin in where it'll be all throughout the jelly. And then once it comes to a rolling boil, you want to really be sure to stir it for 1 minute, and then you'll turn the heat off and get ready to put it back in your jars. Because I had a failed set the first time, I decided to use the spoon out of the freezer to check if these are going to set properly. And you can see that the spoon of jelly out of the pan on the front of my stove is not quite hard set, and the one out of the back pan at this point is more of a set that I would want for jelly. But I went ahead and filled my jars to a 1/4-inch headspace, wiped the rims again, put the rings on, put them back in the canner, and I processed them again for 5 minutes. After they've processed for 5 minutes, turn the heat off, remove the lid, allow the canner to sit undisturbed for another 5 minutes before removing the jars to a place where they can sit undisturbed until they have completely cooled. And I'm happy to say that the Sure Gel did the trick. The jelly set perfectly, and the corn cob jelly is delicious. I had my doubts about making jelly out of a corn cob, but it has a sweet and kind of savory flavor at the same time. It's unique and it's very good. So if you've put up sweet corn, I encourage you to save those corn cobs and give corn cob jelly a try.